My daughter graduates from high school in May, and I've been busy getting a head start on her graduation table and ideas for graduation party decorations. And I'm really excited. I just finished this DIY table centerpiece. It's a DIY photo frame luminary. And in this video, I'm just going to walk through how I painted the frames that I used to put this together, how I pulled the frames together, glued them together, and how I added some finishing touches of decoration just to make a great table centerpiece. Before we get started, I thought I'd go through the supplies that I used to put this project together. I did use 4 5x7 frames. I got these at the dollar store for just $1 a piece. I did have a packet of numbers that was $1 for a bag. I only used one set of the numbers in here, so I would call that about 50 cents because I have another set of numbers I can use for another project. I have an 8x8 mirror that I use. It's like a mirror plate. You can find these like at Walmart. It's in the candle aisle or across from the candles, kind of in the home decor section. I think they have those at Dollar Tree too. I picked mine up at Walmart. They're pretty inexpensive. I used paint because I did spray paint my frames. They were originally black from the Dollar Tree. I have this acrylic, this small jar of acrylic metallic paint. I use that to paint under these numbers so as the glitter flakes off, or you can see in between the glitter, it's not that craft brown color of the wooden numbers. I also had a bottle of glitter. That's what I used on each side. I have a piped line of glitter here. I also use the glitter on my numbers. I used a foam brush a lot to get the glue, the Mod Podge in a line here, and I used it to get the glue on the letters, or the numbers, I'm sorry, as well. I used a couple different kinds of adhesive. I used the E6000. You'll see me use that several times. I did have a glue gun, and I did use some Mod Podge. So that's pretty much everything that it took to work through this project. So I've picked out my 4 5x7 frames. I found mine at the Dollar Tree, so mine were only $1 a piece, so $4 is the cost just to make the outside of this centerpiece. Now, if you were going to go with a black frame, this would actually be great. You'd be ready to go to the next step. But for the graduation party that we're hosting, the girls, it's several girls together, they've decided that they want their colors to be light blue, white, and gold. So I'm going to spray paint my frames light blue. Now, before I paint these, I do need to get the center section out. So I just need to pull up these tabs that this frame has and remove the cardboard easel, the paper, and the glass all need to come out. And then I need to get these tabs out of here, these metal tabs. Because when I put that glass back in, I'm going to be hot gluing it. It's probably easier for me to set this down and pull. See, I just pull that tab out of there. So you just have to do this on all 4 tabs, and then you need to repeat this step for each of the 4 frames that you're going to be painting. To paint my project, I chose the Rust-Oleum Gloss Protective Enamel. It is in the Harbor Blue color. It does have a little bit longer drying time than some of the other paints. The reason I ended up with this one was really just because I needed this baby blue color, and I had a really hard time finding baby blue. There was lots of aqua and a little bit brighter blue, so I ended up with this Rust-Oleum. I think it turned out really nice. It just it took a little bit longer than it would have with some of the other paints that are out on the market. So it was cold outside, and I decided to do my painting in my garage, so I laid down some plastic. With this paint, you're supposed to hold it about 10 to 16 inches away from the frame. And you can do the coats just a few minutes apart. So I got that first coat all the way around. I don't know if you can notice here, but I am doing the back side first. I always just like to do the back side so my final side is clean and and I don't have to turn it back upside down to paint that back side of it. So I got all the way around this first side. I thought the coverage was pretty good. And this is the inside, so I even hesitated to do a second coat because you're not really going to see much on the inside. But I decided, you do the 2 coats just minutes apart, so it's not like you wait a really long time and invest a lot. So then once I got that back side done, I did do a flip over, and it was with the bevel frame on here, it was kind of interesting how much splatter there was on the front. I didn't really worry about that. I thought about kind of scraping it off, and I didn't end up doing that. I thought it would be just fine. But again, that's just one of the things you have to be aware of if you're doing an angled front. And it's not just completely flat. You will have that overspray even from when you do the back side. But I got in here, and you'll see here in a second, I actually ran out of paint getting this front side, so I had to go get another bottle because I didn't already have one. So I grabbed the other bottle of paint at the store, came back, finished up that 4th frame, and then waited a few minutes, and I got a second coat. So I only did 2 coats of paint on both sides of these frames. Okay, while my paint is drying on my frames, I need to go ahead and get my pictures printed out on vellum paper. You can get vellum paper a lot of different places. You could get it at Staples or Office Supply Store. The cheapest place to find vellum paper is going to be the craft store. I got this pack at Hobby Lobby. Paper Studio was half price, so I paid $3.50 for 25 sheets of vellum paper. When I looked at Staples, it was $15 for a 50 sheet, so pretty big price difference. All right, so I'm going to get these printed out, and I'll be right back. So I got my pictures printed out on the vellum paper. You do have to be careful when that's coming out of the printer. It's wet and that ink can kind of smear. So you want to be down there if it's on a different floor when you're printing it. Just be down there to catch those as they come out and then lay them flat and give them time to dry and let that the ink dry on the vellum. And I don't know if you can tell here, the vellum I chose was clear. They have clear vellum, and you can also get vellum with all kinds of patterns. The patterns actually are kind of cool, even if you put a picture on them when there's light in the luminary and it comes through. That pattern can look really awesome. So, there's some floral patterns. There's also, I've kind of seen some grid type patterns. You'll just want to decide if that's something that you want to add to it or not. I chose just to use the clear vellum. And so here you see me just cutting out all 4 of my pictures. Okay, so I'm going to use the E6000 glue, and I need to start putting my vellum into my frame. I'm just going to put a really small, thin strip of glue. This is actually a new container. I've got to get it started. There we go. Try to stick close to the very side because I don't want it to seep out on the front of the frame. So I try to go more on the furthest end. Oops. Okay. Before you do this, after you cut your pictures out, you'll want to just test it to make sure they fit nicely into the frame. And if they're too tight, they'll kind of bubble, and you don't want that. You want it to be able to really lay down in here. So you just want to test it out before you even start putting any glue on it. You'll want to test it out and make sure you've got the pictures cut to the right size. I got kind of lucky here. I'll probably test it just to make sure on the others because I don't want to have any problem. And kind of get an idea. I'll show you from the front. Here's what that one looks like. And then once we get the vellum in there, then, oh dang it, that just kind of dripped across my vellum, which is not good. Shoot. We're going to go around and do another line because I'm going to glue the glass in here. I did pre-clean all of this glass, and so you notice the glass is going on the inside of the frame. So the vellum is actually, there's no glass between the vellum and the front of the frame. The glass is on the inside, and then when we have our lantern all put together, the light will come here and shine out through the glass and through the picture on the vellum. So now that I got this first one done, I'm gonna just put this into fast motion while I get the other 4 taken care of. If you wanted to use hot glue instead of the E6000, you certainly can. I chose to use the other just because I really wanted that glass to hold, but either will certainly work. I think the most important thing is to make sure that it's not seeping over. You do not want the glue to get onto the vellum because that will show. So I found this great bag of numbers from the Dollar Tree. Has 2 sets of 0 through 9, so 20, total of 20 numbers. But that works perfect for me because I can get 2 sets of the 2019, the year of graduation. So I was pretty excited about that. I'm using the Deco Art acrylic paint to paint these numbers. The color I'm using today is the Glorious Gold because they kind of have that metallic gold as an accent color for their party. Now, how perfectly I apply this doesn't really matter so much because I'm going to be putting glitter on top of the numbers. But you know how when you put glitter, some will fall off, and also even when you have it on there, you can see through the glitter in certain parts, and I didn't really want that light brown craft wood look to it, and so I thought I'd just quick pop on a coat of this gold acrylic paint onto these numbers, and I kind of blobbed it on the back too, which I don't know why I do that, but I tend to try to get a quick coat on the back of things so that it could be drying and ready for the glitter by the time I put this lantern together. So I think the color looked pretty nice. I think it's going to look good with the glitter on top. Okay, so I've let my frames all dry. They're still facing down, so you're still seeing the back side of the frames are what's facing up here. And now I need to start gluing the 4 pieces together. I'm gonna go ahead and use a glue gun to do that. One thing I do want to point out, my frames don't have a very wide side. I will say this project's a lot easier if you're using a frame that has a kind of that traditional frame. I really like the look of these edges, and so I'm giving this one a try, but I just already know, and I knew when I bought these, that it was going to be harder than when I've done it with the flat edges. All right, so I'm going to put a really small bead. I'm using a hot glue gun, and I'm going to use a really small bead along the edge. I don't want it, I need it to hold, but I don't want it to be coming like oozing out of the frame. And that's where having that wider edge also makes this, I think, easier. And once I get a line, I'm going to put my frame on. I need to hold it here for 30 seconds. Kind of turning it this way too. I want to make sure I'm lined to the edge. All right. Now we'll do the next side. So last time, if you remember, this is the one I had flat and I did that edge. So I'm going to rotate it. And this time I'm going to put the glue on the other one. You don't put you've got to rotate it because when these frames, when you get all the glue on, you need the frames to line up into your square. It's not real tricky, but you do have to think about it to make sure you're alternating where you're attaching the frames. So that means I'm going to turn it again next time and I'll put it on this one. I do think these edges are going to be tough because they're just so thin. But I still have faith that it's all going to work. I know I can always have a good strong base and that'll help hold it as well. So now I'm going to put it on my fourth one here. Oops, oh, that was a big crash. Hold it for 30 seconds here. Really want to try to keep it that 90-degree angle because otherwise when they come together they won't quite work. I'm setting this on top here, but this one will actually go inside. I'm going to rotate this again. Oh, and I've got to get that bead. I know it's hard for you to see, but I've got to get that bead all along the bottom of this one. "30 seconds. Okay. So there we go. I still need to get the base done. And then I have a fun embellishment I think I might put on one side of this, but I'm really excited to see what it looks like with the light. So I'm going to grab a candle. So these are the LED pillar candles that you get at the Dollar Tree. They're just obviously $1 a piece. So I'm going to turn that on. You can see I was pretty impressed by the amount of light that puts out. And then you can see the light inside the luminary. Now I think it looks so pretty. I don't know if you can notice, but it looks so pretty how these pictures are lighting up. Let me kind of turn to see if you can see any of that. And then I think I'm going to put a mirror on the bottom. I had originally planned just to do a cardboard bottom. You can cut a cardboard the same size as this shape and then hot glue that on the bottom. That's what I've done before. I've never actually done the mirror, but I think I might do a mirror on the bottom to see if it throws up more light. I don't know. Well, I guess you'll see as the video goes what I decided. It'll cost another $1 to do that, but I'm not going to make too many of these, so I think that'll be fine. So I really wanted to get a little bit of glitz and kind of glamour into this luminary, and one of the accent colors of the party is a metallic gold. So it's light blue is the main color with like pops of white and pops of metallic gold. And so I thought, you know, I could add some glitter onto each side. I didn't want to overdo it. And at the same time, I don't know if you can see here, but that crease where those two frames came together, I wasn't loving how that looked. Now, when I've used the other frames that aren't like that beveled front and you have a little bit wider frame, I don't know, it's not quite a centimeter, but it's wider. Those pieces just come together so nicely. And with this beveled, I love the front of the frame, but I didn't really love how it came together. So I thought, hey, I can use this as an opportunity to get some glitz into the piece by running some Mod Podge along that seam and then putting glitter on top. So that's what I did. I just used a foam brush here, and using that foam brush, I carefully got the Mod Podge just along the connection of the frame. Now, I think it's important for what I was doing, I didn't want any of that Mod Podge to seep over to the other side of the frame. So I had to really be careful as I put that line of Mod Podge glue onto the frame. Didn't even care so much if it seeped a little bit over, you know, onto the frame on that same side. So then once I got the glue on, I just really carefully applied that glitter along the line of glue. I did put some wax paper down. Any of you know when you do the glitter projects how completely messy they are. And I want to recycle the glitter, because anytime you drop glitter onto glue, you're just going to have a lot of spillage, overage. And I never like to waste any of that. So I used wax paper, that way I could easily catch whatever glitter was falling off. And I really tried to target just that nice narrow line of glue I had, just so I wasn't wasting a lot of glitter, because even as much as you try to save it, it's still really hard to pick up all that glitter. You still lose a lot that's just all over the table, and unfortunately for me, I feel like it ends up all over my floor. So I'm using a really fine gold glitter, and I mean, you can get different kinds of glitter, but I just like that really fine, small glitter look. I just think it gives a lot of shine. And so that's what I was using on this project. So then once I got it onto the one side and kind of cleaned up my glitter, then what you'll see is I just carefully wiped that glue off, because no matter what, it seems like you kind of get a little bit of extra excess glue, and I wanted to wipe it off before it dried, and then also wanted to make sure that I didn't have glitter on it where I didn't want it. So I just carefully went through, got the glitter, applied the Mod Podge onto that line on each side, and then just continued to do that until I was able to get all four sides with that line of glitter. And I just think it turned out really nice, and it kind of reinforced for me how I'll feel about my 2019 letters being glittered, because I think that's going to be super cute too when I'm able to get that put on. It'll look nicely with this line of glitter on the edges. So while I had all my glitter out, I went ahead and decided to get the glitter onto my 2019 graduation numbers. So I just quickly brushed on the Mod Podge glue onto the numbers, and then sprinkled that same glitter onto each of the numbers. Okay, I did decide that I was going to use a mirror, so I went over to Walmart and purchased an 8x8 mirror. And you can either use hot glue, or I'm going to use the E6000 here. I chose that just because I get a thinner strip of glue. I've got my big hot glue gun, and I think I was just going to make a mess. So I put the E6000 glue all the way around the top, around each side, and then you'll see me turn it over and press it into the mirror. Now I went with an 8x8 because I wanted to have a little bit of mirror poking out kind of on each side. You could probably do a 5x5, but I really like how my 8x8 looks when I put the lantern on top of it. Okay, one of my last steps here is to get my 2019 year onto my frame. I'm going to put it in the upper left-hand corner. I'm using the E6000. You could use the glue gun again. But notice I'm only putting the glue on in certain spots, and those are the spots that are actually touching the frame, because this is a beveled frame, and otherwise if I put glue on the entire number, it would just be making a mess and not even touching the surface. Now when I first started, I thought I'd kind of tilt them back and forth, and then as I got that on there, I decided I didn't really like that look, and you'll see that I straightened them out. And once I got them on, I just held them, pressed them for about 30 seconds. So I'm really happy with how it turned out. It was pretty inexpensive. I think it was great how we could customize it to the colors of her party, and I think it's just going to look great as a centerpiece on her graduation table.